For many of us boaters out there, crossing the Tehuantepec can be a daunting, if not frightening, task. From reading accounts of many of the boats who didn't do it right and were blown out to sea, it's a frightening experience. By observing the typical weather patterns and educating yourself, it's actually an easy crossing to make with the information, and it should subside the notorious bad reputation of the Tehuantepec. In reality, by picking the right window and learning what to look out for, can make the crossing a trivial and even enjoyable task. This starts with weather briefing services, and we know that both buoy weather and passage weather and a host of other ones out there all seem to do a very generic approach to this area. What I found with seaweather.net is it had a specific page that deals just specifically for the whole Tehuantepec Bay, and found it to be very, very accurate. When picking a window, you're going to start looking at your services like buoy weather is an excellent one. Passageweather.com is another one of my favorites, as well as the most recent one I found called seaweather.net. Seaweather.net, you get a free subscription for 15 days, and it is by far, in my opinion, the best detail of this area, because it actually highlights the entire Tehuantepec Bay area and gives you a lot of choices to look at, both current and sea conditions from both period and swell in a real-time 3-hour segment. Okay, I'm just going to show you a couple pages out of seaweather.net that we'll take a look at. What I'm typically looking for when I look at weather using seaweather.net is the wind conditions. Where is the wind coming from? Is it passing through that isthmus that creates the famed Tehuantepec problem that we all are aware of? I'm now at the tail end of our trip. We're about 3 hours out from Chappius, and we had an amazing flat journey. We had 5 to 7 knots of wind, flat, calm seas, and it was an amazing crossing. And needless to say, I started off with lots of nervousness and fear. Another thing to remember when you cross the Tehuantepec, and this is something you'll find on seaweather.net, is the actual currents. In our crossing, we had some great tail currents as we came out of Hatuco and approaching Salina Cruz. From then on, we actually had about 2 knots of, well, 1.5 to 2 knots of nose current, which really wasn't expected. Again, perhaps we were further in on the 16-degree line that I chose to take, and that's why I had those strong currents. Perhaps if you did the 1 foot on the beach plan, which a lot of boaters do, that was our initial plan until we got around Salina Cruz, you might have lesser current. Again, seaweather.net has a page specifically for currents, and I'm going to check, but I think they'll be fairly accurate. Of course, everybody's got the the Charlie's charts and the Rains books and all the chart books for going in this area. The Mexican Boating Guide is perhaps one of my favorites by Rains. It tells you to check into Salina Cruz with the traffic advisory on channel 16. That didn't work for us at all. We were doing that several times with no luck. So that was a little unfortunate, but there is going to be a lot of anchorage area out there at Salina Cruz. You'll see a lot of the big freighters anchored out, and we also saw a massive shrimp convoy coming through there as well, which we were dodging. Thanks for ARPA on our radar to be able to do that effectively. So another thing about these shrimpers is when you're making the crossing and you're past Salina Cruz, there will be at least the night we were out, because again, it's so calm. These shrimpers take the advantage of being out there in their big convoys of 10, 20 ships, and they're fairly large and fairly tightly grouped together. So our choice was to stay off the beach at 10, 12 miles, and we actually shot a line that allowed us to miss, barely missing by 2 or 3 miles in some places, the shrimping convoys. So be aware of that. I guess the best thing I can say about the crossing, where I just started getting very comfortable, is once I did find enough information, buoyweather.com, as well as all the other sites that we're aware of. But seaweather.net was perhaps, again, the best that gave me the greatest comfort level, and that I had a full picture of what was going on. So here's an example of the SeaWeather website I'm talking about, and you can see how the Gulf of Tehuantepec, amongst others, are options to specifically look at. Here's an example of the current page that shows the current coming in on your nose, heading from Hultuco downwards or in the opposite direction depending on your direction of travel. But you can see the color-codedness of staying offshore. For instance, we'll have a 1 knot of current coming on the nose, again heading this way. So this is a good page, and this is the only one I've ever found that sort of shows what the currents will be doing in this region. It's very, very helpful. Okay, here's an example of the Wonderground website that I was talking about. Here we can see a frontal system, albeit stalled, coming across the Tehuantepec. This doesn't unfortunately show. Often I find a couple of buoy markers or ships that are reporting showing actual conditions, real-time conditions here, which is always nice to have some real-time conditions. So this helps a little bit. Of course, we're going to start using the other ones, of buoy weather and sailing weather. Scratch.